Alrighty, this is section 9.2, video notes for multiplying polynomials horizontally. So the important thing to remember here is that when we're multiplying two polynomials, we must multiply every term in polynomial A, or our first polynomial, by every term in polynomial B. So the steps we're going to use to remember to do this is we're going to start with just the first term in polynomial A and multiply it by each term in polynomial B. Then move on to the second term in polynomial A and multiply it by each term in polynomial B. And then we'll continue until we get to the last term of polynomial A to multiply that by every term in polynomial B. And our last step will be to combine like terms. So in order to do this, I'm going to use arrows in order to keep myself organized, to make sure that I get all my terms multiplied together. So let's start off with number one. We have a monomial multiplied by a binomial. Here, our polynomial A, or our first polynomial, is just 2x. It only has one term, so we have to multiply this one term by each term in our second polynomial, or polynomial B. We have x plus 5. So we're going to multiply 2x times x, and then multiply 2x times 5. If you look at this, this is really familiar looking to the distributive property. So we have 2x times x, which gives us 2x times x plus 2x times 5. We simplify 2x times x to be 2x squared. We simplify 2x times 5 to be 10x. We don't have any like terms here that we can combine, so that is our final answer. On number two, we have two binomials multiplied together. So we're going to start with our first term in our first binomial and multiply it by each term in our second binomial. So we have x times x, and here we have x times negative 4 or minus 4. So make sure if it's a minus that you include it as a negative. So we've multiplied our first term in polynomial A by each term in B. So now we have to do our second term. Our second term is 3. So we have 3 times x plus 3 times negative 4. So now our next step is to simplify this. X times x gives us x squared. X times negative 4 gives us minus 4x. 3 times x gives us plus 3x. And 3 times negative 4 gives us minus 12. Now we want to combine like terms. We have two terms with only an x in them here. Negative 4x plus 3x gives us minus 1x. So our final answer is going to be x squared minus x minus 12. We're going to look at one more example. What if we have a trinomial with three terms multiplied by a binomial? So again, we start with our first term in polynomial A and multiply it by each term in polynomial B. So we have x squared times x and x squared times negative 1. We move on to our next term in the first polynomial. We have 2x times x and 2x times negative 1. And last, we have 3 times x and 3 times negative 1. So we can simplify this. X squared plus x, or x squared times x gives us x to the third power. X squared times negative 1 gives us minus x squared. 2x times x gives us plus 2x squared. 2x times negative 1 gives us minus 2x. 3 times x gives us plus 3x. And 3 times negative 1 gives us a minus 3. So now we want to combine like terms. We have two terms with an x squared in them. So minus x squared plus 2x squared gives us plus 1x squared. We also have two terms that have an x in them. So we have minus 2x and plus 3x gives us, again, plus 1x or plus x. We also carry down the x to third power and the minus 3. So our final answer is x cubed plus x squared plus x minus 3. Alrighty, go ahead and do the checkpoint here, numbers 4 through 6, to show us in class tomorrow.